Welcome to Mindshock Flat Earth Live Q&A 18th edition. Anything goes here. Drop any questions or comments in the chat as we continue to logically examine one of the most triggering topics on the interwebs, that of Flat Earth. And we do so with logic and reason at the forefront, attempting not to fall for any logical fallacies, unlike everything else out there in the mainstream. And otherwise, if you want to help support the podcast, you can do it to our PayPal. Check the link in the description. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share. Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Patreon. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Help support the chat. Help support the channel that way. Drop any of your questions and comments in the live chat. I'll try to get to all of them. Welcome, Run Boston Bear, the fallen slaves, us all, TJ Huff, Scott Hawkins. Which subtopic of this flat Earth realm do you guys want to go over first? Dr. Bass Ackwards says the Earth presents itself as planar, therefore concentric circles drawn on the surface of the Earth can only get bigger. Therefore, it's illogical to assume that the Earth's surface can form a sphere. That's an interesting way to phrase it. Welcome, Critter Mama. The Fallen Slaves of Saul says the 24-hour sun. What about it? Welcome, Jeff U1P. YouTube having some lag here. I'm gonna try to get a video up here on the 24-hour sun that I thought was pretty interesting. So we'll go over that. We can go over that. I don't think we ever really went over that. I mean, just other than the basics of you don't know where you are or what you're seeing, so stacking logical fallacies and presuppositions, and then hallucinating the Earth as a globe as a result, like brain-dead gifts like Jeranism, not so-called Professor Dave, like all these brain-dead, scientifically and logically illiterate goofs, they just stack their fallacies and pretend that's that. Dr. Bass Ackworth says the analemma is an infinity symbol at the equator, an even-sized loop in both the north and south. Therefore, we can logically assume that that's what the sun does in the north, it also does in the south. That is interesting. Well, the thing, we don't really know, if we don't know what the sun is it a hologram? Is it some kind of reflection? What are we seeing? If we don't know what it is that we're seeing, we would, how would we know how it would work on one surface versus another surface? Jeff U1P says, I think reality is what you think it is. Still, it's funny to see the goofs defend something without their own arguments just regurgitated from authorities, and those arguments won't hold in practicum. Well, the thing is, they don't even know where they are. Like, how do you prove Antarctica is what is claimed and you are there and the other continents are as claimed on a map in relation to where you are with all those distances, and then you stack all those fallacies on top of all the fallacies of presupposing what the sun is and how it works? And then frame all of that inside another false dichotomy of, oh, it can only be flat or a globe. Just, the goofery is just so... I mean, it's just incredible. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, that's why I kind of never even really went into it, because the goofery is so extreme. I mean, none of it really proves anything. Like, if you can't even delineate your variables, I mean, you're done. Like, you're not exercising science. You're just preaching your gospel. The blind faith of the religion of scientism, not actual science, the methodology dictated by adherence to the scientific method. So let's look at this video, 24-hour sun, explained in Antarctica by the Feed Your Mind channel. Feed Your Mind.
This is Feed Your Mind. This is Feed Your Mind. So it turns out Will Duffy was completely wrong about the 24-hour sun ending the flat earth, and so was Jeranism and Patricia Steer and anyone that decided to turn to a globe earther like Robbie Davidson and even MC Toon and them. They're all wrong about the 24-hour sun. But the thing is, this information I'm about to share with you would even prove the people that thought the 24-hour sun was faked wrong as well. Because it turns out that for the flat earth model to work properly, and with the toroidal field and everything to work properly, you're going to have a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. So here's the information I'm about to share with you. So I came across this information 8 months ago, but I never clicked on the video. It looked like a lot to go through, and I had other things I was working on, so I finally got to this video. So this was created way before the final experiment, about 6 months before the final experiment. And the individual in the video is an expert on this information, and he is challenging anyone to prove him wrong. So if anyone wants to take him up on the offer, I'm going to leave a link in the comment section and description box, and go ahead and have an interview with him and try to debunk him. So that goes out to Will Duffy, Jeranism, or even Wits and Gets It, or anyone who wants to interview this guy. I say that everyone should get all the information out of this guy because it's very important. And so when I finally got to this video, I put it on and I was thinking, okay, I'll check it out and see what it's talking about, but I wasn't expecting much. You know, kind of like with the Joe Hanvey model, is something that is starting to make sense, but there's a lot of work to do to complete the hypothesis. So with this information I'm about to share with you, is not Joe Hanvey. It's actually a channel called, well, it doesn't seem to be very well known. It's called Tomb of Illumination.
Welcome, Chilster Deluxe and Aw0mo. Awesome-o. Saying Craig fight the flat earth. Yeah, what actually broke Craig finally, and then he threw the white flag and ran away, blocking me on Twitter, admitting defeat after all this time of simply indulging his humiliation fetish, if that's what it was, and if it wasn't genuine retardation, which who knows, maybe it is. He didn't know what the word system meant. That's what finally broke him. Not knowing what energy is, not saying over time things happen. Not knowing what the word system means, or that the Antarctic Treaty System is what governs all travel within Antarctica. Because he was pretending only the original Antarctic Treaty had to do with traveling to Antarctica. He doesn't know what the Antarctic Treaty System is, or the fact that continued treaties and regulations and all of those continued to evolve, and people are prosecuted based on that, and that the Antarctic Treaty System is what governs travel to Antarctica, but he's just, the mental capacity is just not there. And that's what finally broke him and sent him running for the hills. Welcome, Haley G88 and Justin Johnson.
And the individual on this channel says he can prove the 24-hour sun in Antarctica. So look, I'm going to leave a link for it in the comment section and description box. But before you check that out, make sure you watch this video first, because I'm going to break it down in a simpler way to understand, because it's a pretty complicated video. You're going to have to watch it probably twice at least to fully understand the information. But I'm going to break it down for you. So basically, with the sun, he's saying basically the sun is in the center, and it does a small circle in the center at all times. And he's actually suggesting that this sun is the North Polaris star. He's saying that's actually the sun in the center of the earth, and it's running in a small circle in that center. And so what it does is it reflects. So the sun that we're seeing in the sky on any given day is actually an apparent sun. That is an image of the actual sun in the center. But that's not all. You see, so why would the 24-hour sun rotate in the opposite direction as in the north? Well, that's very easily explainable, because according to this research, the toroidal field is broken into two halves. You see, this is the key to understanding this information, and this also explains why the southern stars rotate in a different direction as well, because with the toroidal field, he's basically saying the center plate in the inner circle is moving in a direction opposite as the outer ring. So the outer ring rotates in the opposite direction, and this creates that toroidal energy. And that's the key to understanding this information. So if you're in Antarctica and you're seeing a 24-hour sun, what you're seeing is an image of the sun, and you're seeing it no matter where you are on this earth. You're going to see an image of the sun, an apparent sun in the sky, but it's not the actual sun. So at all points around the dome, you're going to see this apparent sun in the sky.
Let me bring this up here, the coffee cup caustic that Austin Whitsitt talked about as well. Again, when you're hallucinating to know what variables are without knowing what they are, I mean, that's anti-science. That's what scientism cultists do.
Reflective image. So just like in a mirror, you see things backwards, right? So with the dome and its reflective properties, you're going to see the opposite of what you would expect, because it's a mirrored image of what's actually going on in the center. So the north center. And so the sun has an elevation which is highest in the north, and then it's just at its lowest point on the outer ring. And so we have come across more information now that it's looking like planes actually have a altitude limit when they're in the Antarctic area, which would prove that the dome is lowered around the outer ring. And also there's an encyclopedia that talks about this with the height of the dome. Also, when you see rainbows, it looks like there's a higher arch when you're in a normal part of the earth, but when you get to the Antarctic area, the word is that they're finding out that the rainbows are actually shallow and a low arch. So this also goes to what we're saying. So no matter where you are, you're going to see a sun, but it's just that when you're on the outer ring, the toroidal energy is behaving differently than if you're in the center part of the earth.
Yeah, who would have thunk it that rainbows might be the key to everything? And no, I'm not being sarcastic there. I mean, rainbows might reveal all. So here's the coffee cup caustic. So if there is a dome, and if there is some kind of holographic reflection of the sun, would it work like this? Where it would go around, it would light up the rim, and that would give an effect of a 24-hour sun.
So it's not clear exactly where this two rings separates, but it looks like it's around the equator or something, where you'll have this switch over to the southern pole. See, some people didn't realize there is a southern pole for the flat earth, which would be the outer ring. And the energy is rotating different from what's going on in the interior.
Now, what he said right there is very interesting, because if the North Pole is a point and the South Pole is some kind of circular, for lack of a better word, vortex of some kind, where it's an outer circle versus an inner single point, would that explain some of what is going on electromagnetically within the realm of Earth?
Part of the earth. So this is the electromagnetic energy that you're getting with the toroidal field. And so this information actually completely shuts down the idea that a 24-hour sun destroys the flat earth. And we're going to have to really analyze this information and get a model, because this guy actually has a model. He has a working model for this. And with more people joining in on this information, I think we can get an actual model that we could present and really start to understand and digest this information to the point where we can fully understand what's going on with the sun. But the key was with the sun being in the center, with the sun being that Polaris star. And then when we're going about our day, we're seeing an apparent sun. And this information I covered years before as well, when I showed you that video with that Freemason, and he was explaining the secrets of this earth from what they have been trying to keep from the world, the information they wanted to keep to themselves. He was describing a black sun in the center. And he was saying how the moon and the sun is projected. So you're seeing like a holographic presentation, a holographic image of the actual source of the moon and the sun. So this is actually the same information, and it is pretty similar. So I think you should probably check out that video as well. I'll leave a link for that too, so if you need to get caught up on everything that was spoken about in that video, because now we're seeing this all matches up.
Okay, in the chat, Trey Styles, is that how you pronounce that? 1331 says, jumping in, do flat earthers put blind faith into land over land observations? The lakes they use are often hundreds of feet above sea level. There could be other factors in the experiment. Yes, correct. There could always be other factors. So the geological cross section of the area being observed, there's water would not curve, but the land itself might not conform to 8 inches per mile squared based on historical deposition. Yeah, that's why they don't really do that over land, right? The 8 inches per mile squared is usually put into practice over water for that reason. Because land is shaped all weirdly. Now, I've brought this up as well. I'm thinking of... Hold on, maybe I should just draw this in Microsoft Paint. Because I don't know if we've gone over this before exactly. But let's say, would it still be possible for a lake to be flat, or water to be flat, even if the Earth were a globe? Now, on a big enough, so this is why lakes might not be good enough, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense. I just made a little diagram here in Paint. I'll bring it up. I'm not sure how you would prove this one way or another, because obviously all of the images from NASA can't be trusted, etc. But so these small lines here, theoretically, you could say that lakes wouldn't convex, right? They wouldn't convex or concave. They could potentially be flat, even if the larger mass on which everything was globular. But where this is kind of weird is, what about oceans? Because with a globular mass, the ocean big enough, it's kind of hard. Yeah, because if everywhere is sea level, when you're using all of the oceans, when you're considering all oceans in real time together in totality, how could they all be sea level and not convex? So the lakes, yeah, I don't know if, regardless of how big a lake is, if you're just looking at one lake, I don't know if that could tell you anything. So basically, considering all oceans simultaneously, that's kind of where a lack of convexity would be a problem. Does that make sense? Trey Styles, you just retracted a message. I missed your last one, I guess. But that is a good point with the lakes. Lakes, especially smaller lakes, even if, like, they would not... I don't know why anybody would think that they would conform to 8 inches per mile squared. That's more of an oceans. That makes more sense for the ocean. Especially when considering all oceans simultaneously. Scott Hawkins says, China and others have created false sun simulator, and these could have been tested here too. Yeah, obviously. It was kind of hilarious how Jaren was hallucinating to know what is or isn't a hologram, as if he has access to all the top secret technology of hologram testing. Oh man, that goof was hilarious in his decimation by Austin Whitsett. I still have to finish that one. Dr. Bass Ackworth says, it's silly to think the biggest circumference that can be drawn on the surface of the Earth is only encompassing half the available area. Yes. Crushing Family Life says, the only problem with that guy's model is he can't explain it. I've seen several interviews of him trying to explain it to other flat earthers, and it sounds like he's lost on his own model. Who? Which person? Justin Johnson says, well, for example, the Suez Canal, 100 miles, no curvature, one continuous body. Yes, so if we're looking at that in isolation, I don't know. I don't know what that proves. But if you want to look at that and all of the other oceans simultaneously, that's where there's a potential issue. Because if you're considering all of the large oceans at the same time and none have curvature, I mean, you are basically disproving the NASA images, because those images show curved water. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean with the real shape of the Earth, whatever it is, couldn't I mean, it could be, if it's some kind of weird, malformed, not exactly globular body and much larger. I mean, I don't know. But, yeah. It definitely does seem all of NASA's images kind of fall apart when you consider all of the oceans simultaneously. Awesome O says, is that McToon guy still around? His personality is interesting to analyze. Yeah, I gotta do a clip of that. That guy is a weirdo. Crushing Family Life says, Stone recently showed the globe precession is impossible on their model because of anti-gravity. It's pretty tough blow to globe. Wait, what do you mean anti-gravity? Dr. Bass Awkward says, doesn't matter if it's a lake or the ocean, the concept is the same. If gravity is pulling everything equally towards the center, the lakes would be curvy too. Well, assuming gravity exists. I mean, I know Globers I love their big G worship. But, yeah, obviously we're not falling for logical fallacies here. It's entirely possible, theoretically, that one of the possibilities is a globe, and gravity and mass does not attract mass, right? Justin Johnson says, let's see a demonstration of water sticking to a tilted, wobbling, spinning ball moving Mach speeds. Well, I still don't understand the tilt, because tilt in relation to what? How do they know what the tilt would be relative to other planets, if that's all real? Fallen Slaves Assault says, stead focus 24 hours on, yeah. Yeah.
And it all makes sense now. So with a higher elevation, the parent sun would actually go through a process of the higher elevation when you're more towards the north center. And then when you go out towards the outer ring, the sun would have a lower altitude. And this explains everything as far as why when you're close to that dome firmament, you're going to see the reflected sun move differently because it's behaving just like it would in a mirror. The exact same thing you would expect a mirror to project would be a reverse image. So this is why Jeranism has been baffled. And now he really needs to take this information and understand that you made a bad call to flip over to the globe side, because the 24-hour sun actually makes perfect sense. So like I said, I'm going to leave a link to this video in the comment section and description box. And I suggest everybody share this video with every flat earther you know. Let's get 1,000 likes on this video at least to make sure everyone sees this video, because it's very important. And then we're going to have to take it from there and start building on this information and getting more of our experts on this information to fully understand it so we can explain it to the world and show people that the 24-hour sun actually does make sense on the flat earth. And so this is about it for today. Like I said, I'm going to leave links for you in the comment section and description box so you can check out the full presentation. It's like a 30-minute presentation, and maybe watch it a couple times, and then also leave a video for the other explanation that goes with this one, and watch them both and start to understand what's really going on this earth. So yeah, that's about it. Let's get those likes up.
Welcome to the Tomb of Illumination, where everything's concerning the physics of our flat earth. Okay, the only site in the world that explains the whole phenomenon of the workings of the flat earth system. Now, the site's shadow banned, so it's up to you guys to get the information out, because I've explained how the sun works over our flat earth, how we get the 24-hour sun each year, twice in the Antarctic and the Arctic for 24 hours. Does not go below the horizon. And there's a lot of chatter online at the moment. Something that's called the final experiment, because it's just a big joke. I've explained the whole system and they're just ignoring me. It's just the way it is. They shadow ban all my information. They know I've got the truth, so they don't want anyone to see it. So it's up to you people to get out and share it. So I'm going to go over it with a bit more detail today. How and why the flat earth gets a sun 24 hours around the Antarctic and the Arctic. Okay? So this is one pole, and this is the other pole in there. No, sorry. That is one pole. Is the same pole that's in there. The opposite pole is here. They are both the South Poles, Capricorn and Cancer. That's North Pole, and this is North Pole. We'll get into that, the mirrored effect, okay? In the north, the sun moves around the black hole centre. Right in the centre above the Arctic, the sun, the actual pure plasma sun that we do not see up in here, outside of our realm, turns a small circle around the black hole centre of the gurgler, the vortex. Just as we see Polaris doing at night. Because Polaris is the sun. It's the nighttime rare image of the sun. The sun projects its rays this way. We see the sun, Polaris, rotating up above. Only at night. And the sun's facing the other direction. So, in the north, the sun moves around the black hole. This is mirrored in the south. Everything is mirrored from the northern hemisphere out to the south. We're going to get into that. Therefore, the sun is on the opposite side of the hole at all times. You get the sun here mirrored out all around here. So the magnetic field is strong out here, like they say, it's strong at the poles, strong out here, and it's strong in there. It's just part of the dual system.
So again, I'm not claiming this is true or untrue, but it just really illustrates the level of retardation of these goofs who hallucinate that a 24-hour sun can only prove one thing, a globe Earth. Because they don't have the mental capacity to understand these very basic concepts of how a system could work. Not that it does. The mark of an educated mind is considering a concept or idea as true without believing in it. But these brain-dead scientism cultists, they don't have the mental capacity to consider any of these very simple concepts. Now, maybe it's not true, but if it is true, it could still work this way. That's the main point here.
The split cell. The tropical gap split. Only the toroidal field of the flat Earth system, with its split cell design, can replicate a two-star rotation. And that is a parabolic southern image that is mirrored from the flat northern hemisphere. Night sky, star rotation.
Raised by Gypsy says, I wonder, can the Antarctic 24-hour sun be seen everywhere, or there's only specific areas? Well, here's the thing. How do you prove Antarctica is where it is claimed and in relation to the other continents? I bring this up all the time, but goofs like Jeranism, they just presuppose and spam the circular reasoning and appeal to authority logical fallacies brainlessly. Like, the mental capacity's just not there to understand what is or isn't an assumption. So first you have to prove what Antarctica is, where it is in relation to the other continents before your question can be answered, raised by Gypsies.
This experiment has been done and proves it all. Just understanding what a parabolic concave mirror can do is enough evidence. Okay? So come up here. Any knowledgeable astronomer knows the northern hemisphere sky is flat. We also know the southern sky curves down. 13,000 feet at 85 degrees south. Americana Encyclopedia, 1958. They know the sky dips down. This is the southern hemisphere sky, dipping down. Nobody can get out here. Man cannot leave this perceived physical realm of ours. You can't get up, you can't get out. You can only go so high. Okay? So 13,000 feet. The planes probably started hitting it or something. Planes crashed up down there, out there. Okay? Now realise Earth's face is like a clock. The sun we see is only the clock hand, not the real sun at the centre turning around the black hole. Not the mechanism that moves the clock arm. Okay? So the sun we see is just projected out from the centre. That explains everything. Time doesn't change from there to there. But don't consider it as one full picture. You've got to imagine, you've got to understand there's two. You've got the projection of the north sun coming out to the Tropic of Cancer. You have a projection of the sun coming out of the south to the Tropic of Capricorn. There is two systems. There is two suns. This is why we get a 24-hour sun in the south. I'm about to explain it all. But first, let's go back to the book of physics. Pomegranate represents the sun in the southern hemisphere at that time of the year, all the way around the south. It's infinite light at a particular time. December, fully illuminated, 24-hour sun, does not go below the horizon. Okay, the pomegranates representing the sun, because every man only sees one image of the sun, doesn't he? In his arc of horizon. He doesn't see light, well, it's daylight all the way around there, but he'll only see one image because it's due to his pupils. And he has one brain, one set of eyes. The southern hemisphere revolves around the centre northern hemisphere over 24 hours. This northern hemisphere sends out a mirrored reflection into the south. Okay? The south is the rotor. The centre north is the stator. Understanding what the sun is doing over the earth. That company that Globebusters had, they even showed all this scientifically, how the sun does this over the year. Up and in for the northern hemisphere summer, down and out for the southern summer. Because the sun is only an image, and it follows the flexing of the magnetic field of the earth. Because it's all about electromagnetism, or magnetic induction, or just plain magnetism. All starts with magnetism, and the magnetic induction is created because of the tropical split here. The southern hemisphere or the northern hemisphere, which is not correct analogy. It's a strong force and a weak force. Strong force, weak force. Strong force, weak force. But when it comes to poles, magnetism, that around here is the same as what's in the north. Check out an earlier video I did. I described it all, why I explained all that. Why these two are the same. And these two here, either side of the tropics are the same. That's the southern pole, south poles and north poles. We make all the energy within this gap here. Okay? And what's created in this gap is magnified from what's created right back at creation. The centre. The centre, right in the centre vortex of creation above the Arctic centre. Okay? So now I'm going to show you the model and how that system works. Southern hemisphere is a 3:2 ratio. Not that man can see that. He cannot tell. He thinks they're just two the same. Okay? But at the end of the day, the fact is that is way bigger than this. Centre north in here, there's the southern hemisphere. It turns all the way around. As this turns, it turns like this. And that moves all the way around. But there's an image everywhere in the south. It's mirrored out from the centre north. Now this is how the sun works. When the southern field is right out here, the sun pops out and is illuminated all the way around the south. Okay? I better go back to that other picture. This point here. So I can draw all the pomegranates all the way around here, but in reality it's completely illuminated. It's all illuminated. Now this separation must go on for a while, but we do only see the sun fully out here for a couple of weeks. Okay, so understanding this, northern hemisphere, and the south goes under it. This is all described in the physics book called the Bible as well. Earthquakes, as in subduction, going down into a mente. Okay, the seasonal change. That's the flex, the seasonal change, in and out, up and in, down and out, up and in, down and out. So when it's right up here, the sun is 24-hour daylight up here. It doesn't go below the horizon. Okay? So this movement here is declination in the sun over the season. When it pops out, the magnetic field pops into the south. So it's all there, folks, all described there. And so you can associate this with that. There's crazy videos at the moment. I messaged, put a message on Jaren's video. I said, I've told you how the effort works. Stop, you know, stop the BS. You can ignore me if you want, but that's the way it works. Can't be debunked. It's fact. I don't lie, and I know what I'm talking about. Okay? So as for this final experiment they're talking about, it's just a joke. There is 24-hour sun around the south. It's all out here for a few weeks. Make sure if you are going down there, somebody, one of you guys, take your northern hemisphere compass and a southern hemisphere compass. Get to know what I'm talking about. Because that centre north is the same as there. But they flipped the magnet for the southern hemisphere to make you think it's opposite. I had a southern hemisphere compass, so it's going to be the opposite, pointing the opposite. Okay, it just depends on where they put the arrow, the northern arrow, or how it's balanced, you know, because they balance them, don't they? So they'll rebalance it for a southern hemisphere, so you think it's south this way and north this way. No, it's the same. Same field there is the same field there. Except this is a weaker field, slightly weaker than up here. Okay, because more widely dispersed, the magnetic field. That's what the sun dilemma is all about. It's a lot bigger. Okay? So the two souths are right here. I tell you the magnetic field is weakest in the tropics. There's no magnetic field in here. It's all built up on the sides here. Capricorn and Cancer. Everything spins out. Oh, here we go. I haven't talked about this. This is how the sun works. It comes out like this in the southern hemisphere. There's two cycles. One for the southern hemisphere, one for the northern hemisphere. This can be proved. It's more easily proved when you look at it in summer. It comes from this direction, the sun, southeast, and settles in southwest. Okay? But it's because it's all mirrored. Let's send the north up here. There. Here's the pomegranate. That's the cycle of our stars in the south, okay? And then you've got the cycle of the stars in the north. Just mirrored. So it's back to front.
So, the guy doesn't prove anything. He's simply explaining a potential model of how it would work if this is what it was. Now, I'm guessing he believes this is what it was. I'm not claiming that. This is simply an explanation for the 24-hour sun in the south on a flat earth, because a lot of brain-dead goofs claim that there is no explanation. Christopher Allen, you're not really missing anything. He's simply explaining how it would work if all of these things are true. Now, if he wants to claim these things are true, that would obviously require... That's not what he's attempting to do here. He's building on it as if they are true, And so I would guess he might have other material on how he claims that that's true. We could examine that as well. I don't think that has to do with the 24-hour sun, though. But it's none of what he's saying is new. These theories have all been proposed for a really long time. Even with a globular model, the North Pole, the North Pole being some kind of black hole vortex, etc., and the sun being a hologram, these theories were all around even with a globular Earth. Dr. Bass Ackward says, why would you model a place you haven't been to? Has he not been there? I have no idea where he claims to have been or not been.
So the Southern Cross, you've got is the Big Dipper, okay? But it's all being shadow banned and ignored because there's billions of dollars in lying to you because they control the power system. Once you understand that the power, how Earth is generated, you just go and create your own power.
If you would like to support this channel, please donate as little as $1 to help keep this channel online.
So, yeah, that was that explanation, but... So, basically the coffee cup caustic explanation, and he went into a little bit more detail of what's going on exactly in the North Pole, allegedly according to his theory, which I am not claiming is true or untrue. So, if the sun is basically being reflected through the North Pole, but it's through whatever the North Pole is, and on the other side, it would be reflecting around the rim. If that's what Antarctica is, which, again, I am not claiming it is. There certainly appears to be a lot of problems with all of these theories. And in the most important documentary of all time, where I went over that, Sayorsa to be Free, there are claims of other continents, and that Antarctica might just be a small little island off the coast of South America, and not actually what is claimed. And how would we know that? So, yeah, those are all issues as well. Justin Johnson says, you wouldn't fake something that was real? Well, you might. Let's say Bigfoot is real, that doesn't mean people wouldn't be making fake Bigfoot videos, so... Yeah, I would call that a false dichotomy as well. You might fake something that was real. Depending. Chillster Deluxe says there's too much optics involved with the sun nonsense. Our eyes are easily fooled by optics. That is also true. That is also true. Are there any other topics here people want to discuss other than the 24-hour sun? I find it very... I don't find it interesting simply because of the lack of verification of what Antarctica is, where it is, and where it is in relation to the other continents. So, yeah, I mean, I just never really want to spend time on it because of those things. You can't verify any of those things. Jeff U1P says money is being counterfeited all the time. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean... I don't want to appeal to motive, but when there's a good motive, you would definitely do it. Even if there is no motive, you might just do it for kicks. You might do it for kicks. Crushing Family Life says ether cosmology or Globebusters recently episodes explain the precession problem. Dax Diggler says you can see Saturn with a 1-foot lens. You don't need NASA, just a telescope. What does that have to do with anything? Nobody's disputing that there's lights in the sky. You ever been to a planetarium, Dax Diggler? A light in the ceiling or the sky doesn't really prove anything, does it? It proves that there is something there, either being reflected, a hologram or whatever. There's something there. But it doesn't tell you what that something is. That'd be a false cause or reductive logical fallacy in presupposing that. Crushing Family Life says, I meant space audits. Dax Stigler says it's concave because oceans exist? What? Concave? What does concave have to do with it? Dr. Bass Ackworth says, if the Earth is flat how it appears, then there'd have to be a location on the perimeter of the sun's path where it's always cold and doesn't support life. Antarctica fits that description. Yeah, I went over that in the Sayorsa documentary a little bit on how if the surface of the Earth is incredibly large with all these other continents, but the path of the sun changes every tens of thousands or thousands of years, then what is under the ice beyond Antarctica? Because again, I mean, you remember the Antarctica episode? Apparently there's freshwater lakes and stuff there too, so... yeah, I mean, it gets warmer when you go in further. So I don't know if it tells the whole story. If there is some kind of holographic coffee cup caustic reflection, then there could be warmer... it could be basically an ice rim. But then if the sun or hologram or whatever is also present beyond the rim, there could be other continents beyond that wouldn't be frozen. So, yeah, a lot of issues there. Dr. Bass Ackworth says, Earth having a shape is fallacious. Dax Stigler says, why does the concave Earth have anything to do with flat Earth? It is water being held by it. You didn't explain yourself well. I mean, I'm not sure what you mean there. You're going to have to be a little bit more eloquent. Justin Johnson says, how many people here believe there's a 24-hour sun in the south? Well, let's do a poll. Oh, let's see. Dax Ziegler says, what's the point of knowing the Earth is flat if it's not eloquent enough to understand how the Earth works, like the northern lights and density? What are you talking about? You are the one who isn't eloquent to explain your concave Earth theory. What is concave Earth? The concave theory of the inverted globe. I mean, I've heard that one before. Is that not what you were saying? It's concave because oceans exist. What kind of false dichotomy is that? False dichotomy, circular reasoning, logical fallacy stack is that? Travis Edwards says, I'm thinking no one alive truly knows the dimensions of the world we live in. If someone could show me a measurement of the globe's required 66 feet across a 10-mile lake, that would be great. Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to be able to show you that. Health Master Jedi says, are there any logical fallacies in the Bible or the Quran? That's a good question. That's an interesting question of acclaimed truth. It's actually kind of weird because it's claiming whatever the laws of God are, creation, that's what they are. So, under that framework, I mean, if you're within the framework, it would be interesting to know if there were any logical fallacies. Alright, let me finish the poll here. 47% say maybe, 6% too triggered to answer, 12% say no 24-hour sun, 35% say yes. So maybe is the number one answer. Obviously, I do not claim anything is true or untrue. The motto here, of course, is the only thing we know for sure is that we don't know anything for sure. We might not even be sure about that. Dax Stigler, I'm not sure why you're spamming all these false dichotomies now. So, as soon as you agree light wavelengths give off color, you say that's not flat Earth. What? But what's the point of knowing the Earth is flat when you can't explain how light bends? So you're stacking appeals to motives, appeal to ignorance, diversion fallacies, red herring fallacies, non sequiturs. I mean, none of these have anything to do with anything. That's kind of weird. You might want to get at least logically literate before posing any of these fallacious questions. Because you're just looking silly here. Looking very, very silly. Welcome, Awesome Town Matt. Trey Style says, if God is anything like what we agree on based on this realm being a spiritual test, then it follows that the 24-hour sun observation is also a test. I think how we treat each other is the focus. I mean, I do find some of these so-called ancients, the previous civilizations, regardless of how old they are, they all have these flat earth cosmologies, and some of them have very interesting and specific explanations on how the realm works. I mean, Ezekiel's wheel, like all of these things are very interesting. Very, very interesting. Book of Enoch, all of that. Jeff U1P says, but there are the stars and planets inside or outside the supposed dome. We must first establish if they're not reflections. Yeah, if you can't establish what they are. Also, we shouldn't fall for the false dichotomy of this realm being non-manipulative. Because if there's some technology relating to the celestial bodies, could they change over time? Chilster Deluxe says, everything sent to try us. Dax Stigler says, you can't see the flat earth? Well, I mean, it looks flat. Go on a hot air balloon ride. I mean, it looks flat. Doesn't mean it is, but it looks so. You got the laser test, the infrared footage. Yeah. I didn't claim it was flat, Dax Stigler. Where did I claim the northern lights have anything to even to do with the shape of the earth? What did the northern lights have to do with the shape of the earth? Electromagnetic energy can exist on any shape. What are you talking about? The heck are you talking about? Welcome, Sarah Catherine. Dax Stigler says, you can't see earth, you see light, light bends. What are you talking about? There's no bend in the ground that you're walking on relative to the horizon. But you can see a rainbow bend. Awesome Town Matt says, Craig, is that you, Dax Stigler? No, Dax Stigler's way smarter than Craig. I mean, even his questions, fallacious as they are, I mean, he's not stacking 11 fallacies in a single statement. He's only stacking like 3 to 5. Okay, so Dax Stigler says a blind man is never going to say the Earth is flat. What does that have to do with anything? I mean, non sequitur. That also appeal to humor fallacy there. Awesome Town Matt says Dax is not stacking fallacies because there's a character limit in chat. Yeah, but he could do back to back. Well, yeah, but he could do back to back comments. What claim did I make, Dax Stigler? Timestamp the claim before humiliating yourself further, demonstrating your complete illiteracy, both in a logical sense and regarding basic English. It has to do with you dodging what's the point in being a flat earther, but you can't what Ben's like. Well, what's the point in being a globe earther? I mean, if you don't understand what a logical fallacy is, what, why do you think anyone has an obligation to indulge logically fallacious points and your hallucinations? Burden of proof is on positive claims. If you're too logically literate to know that, I mean, you can continue to humiliate yourself spamming fallacies, but where did I claim the shape of the Earth? Where did I claim anything regarding the shape of the Earth even having to do with light? Are you saying light only would bend or not bend based on the shape of the Earth? Why are you non sequitur red herring stacking that? Sarah Catherine says, my chandelier in my room makes rainbows a lot. Yeah, some people think you need some kind of a glass-like barrier to make a rainbow. So could a rainbow exist outdoors without some kind of dome or firmament? It's a great question. I don't know the answer to it. Dax Stigler says, my claim is that you can't. I can't what? Your incomprehension of what is a claim. Do you not know what a claim or argument is? One is not called upon to prove a negative. This is Logic 101. If you're not even on a preschool level, Dax Stigler. I mean, do you have a humiliation fetish? Is this what this is about for you? You just came in here and you like humiliating yourself, proving your illiteracy? Is that what this is about? Where did I say physics is irrelevant? Do you even know what physics is? Do you even know what the scientific method is? Can you even define the scientific method, Dax Stigler? Because it sounds like you can't. Unless you're being intellectually dishonest, and you can, and this is all humiliation fetish for you. Or are you genuinely mentally disabled with or without a humiliation fetish? I don't know the answers to these questions. I'm just asking. I'm just asking. Welcome, Docking Felonies. I have no idea what Dax is even talking about now. He's just incoherently rambling. Yeah, Dax Stigler is just not showing any mental capacity at all. Dax Stigler doesn't understand any fallacies, including appeal to ignorance. So, any final points here? I'm going to be rounding this one out. I'm still on backup power, so it doesn't have that long. Any final points anybody wants to go over here? I think it's kind of interesting that flat Earth is still around according to anti-flat Earth grifters, because anti-flat Earth grifters have been declaring flat Earth is dead for years. The death blow to the flat Earth. Flat Earth is over. The 24-hour sun proves globe. And then they're continuing to be full-time anti-flat Earth grifters making anti-flat Earth content, even though they claim it's over and done with. Isn't that interesting? That's funny. Ludwig Strazenhaus says, I actually think the two tall buildings a few miles away experiment might be good. If you could measure the distance with a precise laser, building tops versus bottoms, top would be further than the bottom on a globe. Oh, that's interesting. But see, how precise of a laser? I mean, it'd have to be extremely precise, and, like, what's the margin for error there? I'm not sure that's the best experiment. And I don't even know if that technically is an experiment. That'd be more of a test. Yes, Blooded Sky says that experiment assumes the flat Earth would not have any terrestrial variance. Obviously, there would be variance. Yeah, so plenty more logical. I gotta get to some of these logical analyses, and I have to finish some of, I got a couple that I didn't finish, gotta finish those. So, yeah. I don't think the 24-hour sun really proves anything without knowing more variables. And I'm not sure why people just can't grasp that basic concept, especially anti-flat Earth grifters. Like, the mental capacity is just not there. But thanks again, everybody, for joining us. If you want to help support the Mindshock podcast, help logic and reason return to a world that is quickly going extinct, you can donate to our PayPal. Check the link in the description. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.